Hello everyone, thank you for joining us on this two-part video series for National Public Lands Day 2020. My name is Danny and I am the Community Volunteer Ambassador here at the Lincoln Home National Historic Site. So the purpose of these two videos is to provide some context to the important but often silent issue of food deserts in the United States. This first part will cover a brief overview of their existence in the country, along with some ways the American people have worked in the past and present to solve the issue. So, to begin our discussion, we should first ask, what exactly is a food desert? Well, simply put, a food desert is any area where residents have limited access to fresh and healthy food options in their daily lives. Many of us are fortunate enough to have consistent access to grocery stores, markets, or other reliable sources of healthy food. But for many others, healthy food can be an all but unobtainable luxury. The United States Department of Agriculture officially defined a food desert as a region where 1/3 or more of the residents live more than 1 mile away from a grocery store in urban areas and 10 miles away in rural communities. According to this definition, nearly 20 million people in the United States live in a food desert today. For some, this is not a problem. Reliable access to transportation can help relieve the effects of a food desert. In many cities, public transport can help, but this leaves many more in suburban and rural areas entirely dependent on personal vehicles for access to fresh food. Naturally, this means that economic issues factor heavily into people's access to food, leaving those in poverty even more affected by a lack of accessible healthy options. This can result in unhealthy eating habits being the only options available, such as a reliance on cheap, accessible fast food or junk food from convenience stores. The short-term benefits of fast food's convenience can lead to serious long-term health risks that disproportionately affect those of lower income. So, now that we've identified the problem, what can be done about it? If you're one of the millions of Americans currently living in a food desert, what can you do to ensure that you and your family have access to fresh and healthy foods? Well, one possible way is to check for events like farmers markets in your community. Those are a great way to get food fresh from the farm right to your home. If one exists in your community, make sure you spread the word about it. Of course, there are other solutions to these issues, and one that I want to present today involves the place I'm standing in right now, a personal garden. Personal gardens have a long history in the United States. Back in the 19th century, kitchen gardens, like the one recreated here at the Lincoln Home site, were a common method of providing food for the family. And today, we carry on the legacy by maintaining seasonal plantings of fruits and vegetables that were popular in Lincoln's time. Back then, gardening wasn't just a hobby, it was an essential aspect of life. During the Civil War, mass production and shipment of produce was needed for the soldiers that couldn't remain in the same place for an entire growing season, making kitchen gardens an even greater necessity in both North and South. Later, during the First World War, the government encouraged the public to plant war gardens to help alleviate the shortage of food in Europe as agriculture workers were being sent to fight and farmlands turned into battlefields. As the call was put forth to the people to sow the seeds of victory, the gardens would later come to be known as the slightly less aggressive-sounding Victory Gardens. Victory Gardens returned in force during World War II, as rationing meant that the food shortages extended to the home front to a greater degree than ever before. They were wildly successful during this period, with the United States Department of Agriculture estimating that some 20 million gardens were planted, producing millions of tons of food, all grown among local communities from coast to coast. Clearly, the drive and ability to grow crops at home exists strongly within the American people. As we all know, we are once again facing unprecedented times in 2020. With many of us spending much of our time confined to the home and in need of healthy, fresh food, what better time to bring back the personal garden? It can be much easier than you may think, even if you don't have access to an outdoor gardening space. In fact, you can produce tasty and nutritious foods right on your windowsill. For instructions on that, stay tuned for part 2 of this video series, where we will give a hands-on demonstration of planting and caring for crops in the home. I want to thank you all for watching today. We hope this information has inspired you, no matter what community you live in, to ensure that you, your families, and your neighbors have access to fresh and healthy foods. Whether that be in a local market, in your backyard, or even in a windowsill, everyone should have access to healthy and affordable foods. From all of us here at the Lincoln Home National Historic Site, have a great National Public Lands Day, and stay tuned for part 2.